Welcome to today's podcast. In this podcast episode, I guess we'll be talking about how people are forced in societal constructs, societal thoughts, beliefs, trends, etc. One prime example to get us started with is in class, if some teacher or someone who is not like a student, so a staff member would ask you to volunteer for something, then you are in that situation where you don't even raise your hand to volunteer unless someone else would volunteer, and there's like this whole chain process that begins when other people also follow that first person who said, "I'll do it." And that is a basic belief of societal construct, societal following, and how people follow that chain. And what I mean by that is that straight away when someone has the assurance that someone else would do it, then the confidence level of the person himself will increase, and then himself will volunteer for it. There's a lot of factors when it comes to considering societal construct and following it, but we've all been through there once in our lives following societal constructs. In basic terminology, we could just say that you follow the mass, you follow the normal. And the normal is considered what most people would go for, which is the majority. If you follow the majority, you are part of the normal. And it's a very common occurrence for people to go through that. And to talk about it globally, I think there are a lot of issues in concerns to roles that genders play as well. And consider it to people's religions, people's beliefs in culture, people's general perspective of the city or state or country they live in. They have that specific societal construct that restricts them from doing something. So let's say that in a societal construct there could be that men do not open up at all whatsoever, and women are known as people who would open up or would show their emotion more easily, whereas men wouldn't. In this case, it would just mean that the men that follow the majority would follow that simple rule, and men would not reveal their emotion. And that's the basic societal construct. There's no one really there to break that chain, because everyone's following that norm. They think it is normal for a man not to reveal his emotions or vent it out, which is very unlikely to believe at all, because we're all human beings at the end of the day. We all have some sort of desire to let it go, to vent out our frustration, stress, worry, etc. I think in modern society, with the whole social media and the internet and a very large span of communities building up online, many people are being forced to follow this societal construct, because it could be the matter of fact that if you go on social media, then you got to make sure that you're someone normal perceived. So you do something that the majority of social media content creators would do, so you're not considered a weird person or an odd person or an oddball, you could say. Rather, you'd be considered normal. And that's what you would want, because you want to be treated normally. You don't want to be treated differently, and it's a way to attract people. Attract in a sense to gain followers, to gain views. You would follow the majority, and many people do that still, and it's getting more and more powerful in modern society. While that is fine at its very basic level, I think that when societal construct is very extreme, as to a matter of fact of racism being imposed on people, which can really suppress a lot of individuals in society, and it especially depends on the country you live in, as in, if you don't know how to survive in a society where maybe your color is different from other people, don't know how to live in a society to be considered normal, because you are different no matter what. For example, in my case, I am an Indian, and around me are a lot of people that are of different ethnicities, and so I cannot change the fact that I am Indian, nor can I change my color. So in some way or the other people just perceive me as a person who eats curry every day, a person who stinks. It's all just stereotypes that are being said as jokes to other people. It's not true, and there are other individuals in society who would follow these stereotypes to be considered normal and to create it like a joke for others. which is not the case. Not everyone follows that stereotype, not everyone follows that joke, but they do it just so they can fit in. The main issue here is that when these extreme opinions are imposed into societal beliefs, constructs, etc., perspective, there can be drastic issues that arise. If we were to look at the past, we could just consider how people of color in the US were treated very, very much differently. So in South Africa, where the whites were separated from the blacks, toilets were separated, services were separated, the city side was separated. These are things that society follows, and when the majority believes that that is all right, then it is considered normal. That is why in society, norms and expectations change all the time. And they say that modern world, that is going to be destroyed with all the equality that's rising up and individuality and identity. But I feel that many times people still follow that societal construct no matter what, because it is instinctually in our heads to be normal, and normal in our case is just following other people who think it's normal, because the larger the number, the more the credibility. That is our thought processes as humans. We just follow the idea that, it's all right to be this because many people do it. It's fine. If someone decided to start a whole trend popping fireworks in someone's backyard, and other people would decide to join that, then an online community can just view that and be like, oh wow, this is normal, people are doing it, I should do it too. And then that number just masses up into this large group that just consider it normal, and soon over a period of time, society would consider that a normal thing to do, to pop some fireworks in a neighbor's backyard. However, we don't see the other perspective really of the neighbors who are being annoyed by this, and that would be called a minority, because many people in modern world now, people now in society, especially online communities, they would find entertainment in anything that seems ridiculous and out of hand. And that is the honest truth. If we were to just look at someone do something really, really stupid, we end up laughing at it for no reason whatsoever. We just think it's funny because it doesn't directly relate with us. It's a video and it's a form of entertainment. Our head just perceives it as an entertainment and we laugh at it. So when that happens, we briefly think that, okay, well, this is funny, and you decide to spread it around. People get that message, people get that video, and then that spreads, and then there may be people who see that video and also want to try it because they think it's funny and they want to do it, and they think it'll get some views, or they can be part of the majority that are following the trend, and their problems just start arising. Fireworks may not be the most dangerous thing in the world right now, let's be honest, but it does cause a lot of problems in society. In real world time, there are people who are disturbed by this, by people who are affected directly by the action. So if someone was to pop fireworks in someone's backyard, their neighbors are affected. The person who has his backyard lit with fireworks is affected. There's also crime that can occur where people can break into other people's backyards, which is completely insane. But because there's a large number of people that do it and say that's funny and it's normal, then that majority will create the normality in society. And society is such a big power because the more the number of people that back up that point, the harder it is to battle against, because minorities never really win against the majority, because there's a whole lot of credibility within majorities in human society, and that's the dark truth. Even if it's a bad thing to follow, even if it is not the right thing to speak up for, if there is a majority, many people would think that, or many people can agree that it's just really hard to fight against, unless you have a minority of people that are really good at arguing back against and debating against them and proving them otherwise, which is a rare case because not every single person in human society can do that. Now, can they? It's a special skill to debate against majority. Something lawyers would do as well in controversial cases or crime cases, to back up a criminal or go against a criminal. It's a very difficult case, and the one that explains themselves the best, or the one that's more credible, and the one that seems the most believable will be the one who's defined as truth. And society will follow that rule, and they will just think of it as normal. Case closed. So misunderstandings can occur when societal construct is there. And the reason why I'm telling this right now as a global issue is because no matter who you are, where you are, or what you're doing, you are in some way, or have been in some way, directly influenced by societal construct. You have followed that chain thought. You have followed that normality. You have followed that trend. It is inevitable. Once, at least in our lives, we follow that, because we don't, I will say this right now, we don't really have that confidence in the beginning if we're going to enter the online community to know something. We can't just be regarded as another perspective. We'd be regarded as hypocrisy as soon as we oppose the normality, which is what the majority agree on. When you fear that itself, there's a fear monger occurring here. You just cannot resist the fact that you don't have the confidence to actually fight against the majority. So you don't say anything. And that is still, in a way, following societal construct. It's inevitable. A solution to all of this, which is very brief, very simple, not really that well thought into, developing our individuality and creating bravery within ourselves to do something we want to do rather than follow others. And I think that maybe in this time itself, there are a very small number of people in communities and societies around the world that are actually following this, and they're building their own individuality and identity to being their own person, which is a really good thing. I think sooner or later the world will be a better place if we actually just get rid of the societal belief construct that just is imposed onto us to believe what's right and what's wrong. There's no right or wrong in this world. There's only the truth and a lie. Truth is only seen by historical events that are witnessed, and the truth is altered as well. And if society believes the one that has more power in the society itself, so let's say the government would say X perspective for Y scenario, and Z perspective is said by some blogger online about Y scenario, then no one's going to believe the blogger. Everyone will believe the government. You know why? Because the government is credible. And society, there are many people in society who would believe the government more. But what if the blogger was right? Truth is never defined directly. And the reason why I brought in truth is because society relates to that a lot. Truth is never defined in society. You can never do that. It's impossible, because truth is altered. Perspective is altered. Therefore, no one knows the truth unless they've witnessed the scene themselves. In a crime case, if only you've witnessed the crime case yourself, would you be considered known to know the truth. But once you express that truth, it's no more the truth, because it's your perspective that says it, and it's completely one-sided to how you perceive it. So truth is never really shown, where they will look at the common traits in other witnesses' stories to understand what's going on, to classify a vague truth, to classify a general image of what happened. Scenarios happened like that in World War, where we had journals to express truth. But again, in journal itself, you are writing fully in your perspective that you don't know if your reader is actually going to understand what's going on. It could be heavily exaggerated. So yeah, societal construct, truth, and the definition of truth, who is right or who is wrong, is all just part of a majority system that follows in society. And people with power in society would just be more believable than others because they have more authority and believability. Yeah. So it's hard to argue against that whole thing. I hope you like this podcast. Thank you for listening.